ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. It is Reality Rants. I am Jason Bermas. And yesterday was World Free Press Day. Okay, and we had an individual from our government who, by the way, who I think is extremely capable. One of the few people inside the Biden administration that I do believe is capable is Blinken. Blinken and Garland, I would say, are capable and on the level of that Bush Jr. administration, like, you know, a Wolfowitz in the background, a Rumsfeld, very capable guys, right? Some of the other people are clearly clowns, but these guys are well-versed in the talking points, pretty much stone-faced as they lie to the American public, as Garland lies in government hearings and then says to the press, I stand by my testimony. They know what they're doing, okay? So it really warmed the cockles of my heart, okay? For real. When I saw Code Pink get up on stage after you were hearing this rhetoric of how we're the beacon of shining light for press freedom and journalism in this country. Not one word about Assange. You know why? Because we're not. We can't claim to have a free press in this country when we are currently illegally prosecuting a non-U.S. citizen under the Espionage Act after conducting a fifth-generation warfare program directly against Wikileaks and a psychological operation on the American people and general public, the general public of talking points, really, that somehow WikiLeaks was a conduit for Russia and that really they're Russian assets or agents. Total Johnny nonsense, clearly not true, not only never proven, but a load of hooey. So when I see Code Pink get up there and say, what is this? No one said anything about Assange, not one time. We can't be talking about press freedom without talking about Assange, period. And look, we know what Assange's greatest crimes were, and that was exposing actual war crimes. And, another reason to get behind RFK Jr. right here. Another reason. Look at that. Sorry about that green screen. And do that. Didn't see that before. It was a little cut off. Instead of championing free speech, the U.S. actively persecutes journalists and whistleblowers. 100%. I'll pardon brave truth tellers like Julian Assange and investigate the corruption and crimes they expose. This isn't the Soviet Union. The America I love doesn't imprison dissidents. Hashtag free Assange. Hashtag Kennedy24. And again, I'm not trying to turn this into an RFK Jr. commercial, But where is everybody for Julian Assange? Let's talk about Trump and Assange really quick. That was one of the last straws on Julian. Period. That was really okay. Now we're going to drag him out of the embassy, because this spans administrations. I'm not just going to blame it on Trump, but remember when Trump was running that first time, you see the WikiLeaks, can't get enough of the WikiLeaks. How about the WikiLeaks? They didn't like that WikiLeaks did take a stand in the 2016 election, and they understood that Hillary Clinton would absolutely be the worst thing possible for not only this country in the world, and that's documented. Okay, this is why they really didn't like him. Let me show you this. And by the way, it's tough to find these. It used to be very easy to get what WikiLeaks was posting on Twitter, and we're going to show you one of those documents and how they were actually saying to their audience, which was captive at the time because these DNC emails, they were raw and they were searchable. They said, look for signs of human trafficking. They don't like that either. That last straw is here. We got to drag him out. Remember, Trump was loving this stuff on the way up to the election. They said, we believe it would be much better for the GOP to win. The Democrats, media, and liberals would then form a bloc to rein in the worst qualities. With Hillary in charge, GOP will be pushing for her worst qualities. Dems, media, neoliberals will be mute. She's a bright, well-connected, sadistic sociopath. Badongo. You got it right, WikiLeaks. Okay? And that's why, for the first time in a long time, if not my entire life, there was a meaningful difference, in my opinion, in the candidates that were running for president. But Trump failed on this. We have to acknowledge that. Trump failed on this. First, we have the reporting from Cassandra Fairbanks, who was recording Rick Grenell's top assistant, had an in with the NSA, and was basically told, not basically, I mean, you can listen to these recordings. They're out there. I don't think they've been, I don't know if they've been scrubbed from the internet. But in these conversations, he was upset because a lot of these things were getting him in trouble or maybe getting him fired. That's a big deal, all these Washington leakers. They said, it was said that Donnie T and Donnie T Jr. were shown evidence that women and children were killed because of WikiLeaks, including graphic pictures of the bodies. Now, in court, it has been proven none of that is real. That's imagination land. And that, in fact, mainstream media reporting on WikiLeaks, where WikiLeaks had purposely redacted names and informations as not to give up assets and put them in danger. The media are the ones that put those two in danger by exposing who they were. WikiLeaks never did. And remember, in the beginning, with Julian Assange in particular, none of this had to do with whether or not things were redacted, Espionage Act. No. They tried to get him on a weird rape charge that, to this day, if you have one of those really low intelligence, doesn't look anything up, parrot people out there, other than the Russia smear, that one stuck also. He's a rapist Russian. He's a rapist Russian asset. All made up. And Assange ain't perfect. I've seen people in the comments before talking about his stance on 9/11, but later on, he simply said, look, that does need to be looked at. But I don't think, like many others, that it's like the panacea. In other words, look, there was a feeling, and I had this feeling, and that's what got me started. I really believed in my heart of hearts, in my mind of minds, that we could reach a cultural zeitgeist in this country and take it back well before the Barack Star came into being. And I saw that window just before the 5th anniversary of 9/11, and then I saw it close. And I saw so many people sucked in because they'd had 8 years of the Republicans and war and Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld and the same old, neocon was in the vernacular finally, right? And this young stud, the Barack star, Barry Soetoro, just promoted everywhere. I can't tell you how many people came up. What do you think about Barack? I'm like, I don't think much of him. I think he's an extension of the problem. I think he's an articulate, well-spoken individual that's been groomed for this position. Okay, and we really got Bush 2.0 wrapped in different packaging. That's it. It would be like going into Christmas. Okay, seeing a box about this big in red dressing, right? Like a nice little red bow, right? It's got the candy cane wrapping on it. And over on the other side, you got the blue and the blue bow. And when you open them both up, it's a turd sandwich in each. Same thing. Same exact thing. Maybe one was a little stinkier. You could smell that one a little bit more as you were unwrapping it. I hate to be vulgar. But that's about it. In 2016, there was a difference. WikiLeaks did take a stand on that difference. And I want to show people this. Like, you type in Twitter, WikiLeaks, Clinton emails. Believe me, I went to DuckDuckGo too. This is the Google results. But they're here. They got the Podesta emails, all those things. They didn't like that the FBI had this, symbol here that to look for people who were doing bad things to kids. And WikiLeaks highlighted this and then was also using Twitter as a tool before it was moderation central, before the algorithm stopped real information from being shared, right? And they were saying, hey, take a look at this and take a look at these emails and see what you find. Hey, get out there. So what did they get for it? Oh, you know what they got for it. WikiLeaks pretty sure Hillary Clinton is a child sex trafficker now. It is just obvious. This is Wonkat. And, again, WikiLeaks had linked to a supposedly pro-Trump Reddit. And that's how they muddy the waters. You show me where WikiLeaks ever said Hillary Clinton is a sex trafficker. But that's the meme. It's the same thing with 9/11, which we'll get into a little later. Glenn Beck finally does like a 3-minute segment talking about the CIA 9/11 link that's brand new, that isn't really brand new. There's just a multitude of qualified people now talking about it, whereas there was a minutia of people who knew talking about it 20 plus years ago now. 20 plus years ago. Literally 20 plus years ago. Springman was out there immediately talking about the CIA, that Saudi consulate, and the hijackers. Immediate. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So what did they make that into? Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. So there's so many associations with that mentally. Okay? First of all, it gives them the straw man debunk that the steel beams didn't have to melt. Now, initially, that's what media reports said, that, well, it got so hot and they melted, and then you had a pancake collapse. It was a pancake. Talking pancakes. No syrup. That was the media thing. Then later on, it was, they sagged. They didn't actually have to melt because they realized the temperatures couldn't have them melt. Now, at the same time, molten metal is reported all over. Molten metal is on film pouring out of one of the parts of the impact zone before collapse, period, on tape, documented in my film, Loose Change Final Cut. See it multiple angles. It's not a debate, okay? It shouldn't be a debate, but they make the debate something else. Look over here, okay? So it's like, oh, Hillary Clinton was trafficking children from a pizza shop. That's insane. And meanwhile, that's not what anybody who was looking at it intelligently said. That's what they made it popular meme style. Okay? So that in turn, all of it gets discredited. And now a word from our sponsor.
Have you heard of Executive Order 14067? This little-known order implemented the digital dollar, the most sinister plan to control your spending. And it gets worse. In November, the federal government and banks began a test program to roll out the digital dollar. With this, privacy for all Americans will be lost forever. Imagine, the government can now track all of your spending. The government can tell you what you can and can't buy. The government could confiscate your cash. When digital currency was rolled out in China, Bloomberg wrote, quote, "This will lead to control like no other," end quote. The EU has announced that they are next, but it is already happening in America, which makes this wealth protection guide that American Alternative Assets just put out even more urgent. Project Hamilton, as this secret order is being called, might be the scariest order to happen to privacy and freedom in America since its founding, which makes this wealth protection guide so incredibly valuable right now. Move your money out of cash and into something that doesn't infringe on your privacy. You see, there is one legal IRS-proof loophole that could protect your IRA, 401k, and pension savings with gold and silver. And this free guide tells you exactly which steps you need to take right now to move part of your IRA or 401k into precious metals with no tax consequences. As this program rolls out, the sky's the limit for the level of government control that could be enforced on your money. Protect your savings and your privacy. But in the devastation ahead, American Alternative Assets is offering you something rare, a chance to protect your wealth and possibly even grow it.
All right, everybody, we are back, and I want to play the clip because this is how it's done. This is how it's done, son. The other way it's done is by using your little magic box or getting a camera and confronting these people. Confront them. Confront them calmly, okay, and with a pointed question. Last year, I remember that Blinken, it might even be less than a year ago, was confronted by Abby Martin, one of my favorite independent journalists on the left, and confronted with the fact that you just had a journalist killed on camera by the IDF reporting on the Palestinian conflict. Big deal. American citizen, by the way. Big deal. Never really heard about it here in the press. Blinken actually commented on that one. You think they're going to make any comments about Julian Assange? Let's find out.
In particular, I'm curious whether you've been able to talk.
Excuse us, we can't use this day without calling for the freedom of Julian Assange. The Biden...
I mean, that's the deal.
2 hours and not one word.
Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy, guys.
Not one word about journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was murdered by the Israeli occupation forces in Palestine. One word about journalists.
We're here to celebrate.
We're here to celebrate World Press Freedom Day. We're not going to talk about Julian Assange. You notice he's talking about the IDF as well. That's how it's done. That's how it's done, everybody. And look, not a left or right issue to me. That Code Pink, they used to march with my ass for 9/11 truth. Not many people on the right did. If you align yourself blindly with one side of the political spectrum, I just truly believe you do yourself a disservice. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that you should get involved politically. That doesn't mean I don't understand why you wouldn't register for a party so you can be a part of that process, especially in the primaries, okay? And delegation, all of it. I understand that. But on certain issues, you have to acknowledge we need organizations like Code Pink. We need lefties like that who are for real and anti-war to do what they just did. Let's play it again. And you notice how Blinken, easy with the lady. Let's take it easy. Oh, thank you, Tony.
In particular, I'm curious whether you've been able to talk.
Excuse us, we can't use this day without calling for the freedom of Julian Assange. The Biden...
Oh, let's mute him. Let's mute him.
The extradition request...
Easy. Easy.
Take it easy, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Take it easy, guys.
Not one word about journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was murdered by the Israeli occupation forces in Palestine. One word We're here to celebrate freedom of expression, and we just experienced it. Let me continue, Mr. Secretary, to ask you about Evan Gershkovich and your efforts to get him free.
Yeah, let's talk about Russia and stuff. You know, let's talk about Jamal Khashoggi and stuff. Let's talk about the safe stuff, Mr. Blinken. We just experienced this. The Bezos press outlet, one of the worst out there, the Washington Post, up there with Tony Blinken, and they don't acknowledge a word those people said. 2 hours, no talk about Assange. And look again, big mistake, Donnie T. I know you sent Rohrbacher over there. I know you wanted to cut deals with Assange and have him testify that it wasn't Russia who had given him the documents, because it wasn't Russia and it wasn't a hack. Okay? It was a download. There's a difference. You take one of these little magic stickle doodles, and you stick them in the computer, and then you can take and download stuff, and you got it on this hard thing. You don't got to go dicka-dicka-doo and be in a dark room with smoke and a hooded sweatshirt and hack in, ooh, Russian style. No. Clearly, someone who had access to it, clearly the data was copied to one of these bad boys, and that's how it was shared. And again, Donnie T, he's very transactional, took it as kind of a slight that Julian didn't want to come out on his terms. There should be no prosecution of the man, period. Zero, zipples, zilch, none. Drives me wild, man. And look, again, nobody's perfect. He's all of us are human. We're imperfect beings. But you can't sit up there, World Press Freedom Day. What a joke. What a bad joke. Brought to you by Tony Blinken. All right, we're going to move on. But with a similar theme, because it's really the same thing over and over and over and over and over again with the Central Intelligence Agency. Another reason that I like RFK Jr., and I've got a clip of him talking about NATO and Russia, but we'll probably play that later. Maybe we'll play that in the first hour, not sure. But he's also talking about now breaking the CIA up where it is actually accountable. I'm not sure how you do that, but I like that we're actually discussing it, because the CIA and the mainstream media, and probably a lot of the alternative media guys, I'm sorry, they have penetrated, if not outright created, just like Klaus has penetrated the cabinets, which I have that clip for a little later. We're going to be clipping it up today. This is John Stockwell, one of the best, biggest, and brightest, probably one of the most forgotten CIA whistleblowers out there, telling you how it goes down.
This analysis that we made of the CIA's media operations disclosed, among other things, that they deliver through CIA couriers ready to print or ready to broadcast news, and I put that in inverted commas, which is used by the media. And this is created by the CIA.
How often does the CIA manipulate the media in this way, plant stories, get their views in the media? Is this fairly common as a modus operandi for the CIA?
It goes beyond your, in the course of the past 30 years, it goes beyond your wildest imagination, the extent to which the CIA has gone to manipulate public opinion. If you include the MH Chaos program, which was $1 billion program of setting up proprietary companies, setting up student organizations so they could draw radical students in and do every kind of duplicitous manipulation of national student movements, press, propaganda, labor, extensive formation of labor unions, funding of major labor unions, with the objective essentially of manipulating the mind and attitudes of workers throughout the nation and the world.
A whole range of areas wherein the CIA provides briefings to selected journalists, and there are numerous cases where the CIA has, for example, published books, and several thousand books were published in English by the CIA, and this is documented in the Church Committee report. They set up 250 news services and wire services, some of which, not all, but some of which are still in the pocket of the CIA. And I think it's only fair to say that even some journalists who don't realize, there are some who are witting, but there are also some who do not realize that they're being targeted by the CIA when they come home from a trip overseas. They might talk to somebody and they don't realize, at least right away, who they're talking to, and then it turns out that they've been the source of information which was used by the CIA.
Oh yeah, the CIA. That really is the tip of the iceberg. When you talk about your wildest dreams, you got to think about the Central Intelligence Agency and the entire Disney apparatus, right? In order to buy up all that land for Disney World, the CIA set up all these shell companies. Can you imagine how many shell companies are out there right now that either were started or have massive intelligence connections, whether it's the Central Intelligence Agency or not? So you set up these shell corporations back in the day for Disney, like the powerhouse in media, goes well beyond Mickey Mouse at this point, everybody. Everybody has to bend a little bit of the knee to Disney, somewhere, somehow. Believe the hype. And they buy up all this land under these organizations because they wouldn't let Disney do it. And I know people are like, DeSantis versus Disney. And I don't hate what DeSantis is doing. And I am, Team DeSantis when it comes to Disney. There's no reason that a private company should be able to self-regulate and have its own bylaws. It's ridiculous. Like, what is this? That's not capitalism, everybody. I can promise you that. That's not, people can't call that capitalism because it isn't, period. So, that's, again, tip of the iceberg. Bezos, Amazon. Amazon is a company, everybody. Think about this. Is that real capitalism? They were not profitable for how many years, serving people at a loss year after year after year after year, but being subsidized and promoted by the government intelligence agencies because they're a Trojan horse civilian system, period. And now he's the private space guy. He's in the backdrop. He's only got dick rockets, right? He's not as renowned. He's like the anti-Muskernuts, right? You've got Elon being promoted in movies like Iron Man, Disney. As the good billionaires, the Tony Stark guy. And then you've got evil, space guy, Lex Luthor-esque Jeff Bezos buffing up. And you got a whole media outlet where they get to sit there with Tony Blinken and talk about World Press Freedom Day and we love democracy. It's a bad joke. It's the dark cartoon, and we're in it. Can we get some thumbs up, by the way? Low views today over on the YouTube. Can we get 100 thumbs up? And barely anybody saw yesterday's show after the cluster knuck. We did end up posting, I believe I posted the first hour to YouTube as I often do. Let me go check that out right now. Yeah, it's over on the YouTube. But both hours are on My Rumble. You can go to the streams over at Red Voice Media. That's where the second hour is going to be as well for free. We've got it everywhere. If you're listening, you can listen on Podbean. Okay, we stream it there, just in audio format. Share the RSS feed. Second hour also at Rokfin and Rumble. And this weekend, we're going to have Wayne Dupree and another special interview for you. That's 2 interviews. That's under premium. RedVoiceMedia.com/Jason. RedVoiceMedia.com/uncensored. Consider supporting the broadcast. You get everything premium over at Red Voice Media. There is now a 12-hour block, 4 days a week. They're letting me spout my mouth off, talk about Assange, show Code Pink. You think you're going to hear that on any other alternative right program? There are alternative media programs that are going to talk about this, thank God. But we really need to be hammering it home to free Julian Assange. And now a word from our sponsor. And he's interrupting this commercial.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog
Whoa,
beds.
whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Use that promo code RVM. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk Glenn Beck and 9/11. Okay? Beck did about a 3-minute piece talking about the complete and total media blackout on the CIA revelations with the hijackers, Khalid al-Mihdhar in particular. Now, where I believe Beck gets it wrong at the end of this is that somehow the FBI was shielded by the fact that al-Mihdhar, and I think it's al-Nawafi, were Central Intelligence Agency recruits or assets. I find that extremely hard to believe that people within the FBI were unaware of this because what? Al-Mihdhar was living with and renting from an FBI asset and informant as well. And as I've discussed many times here, and we've shown you the video, the James Woods incident is another incident where clearly the hijackers were protected. Because you wouldn't have an incident where a pilot, a stewardess, and a Hollywood actor said, hey, these guys are going to hijack a plane, and you better look at them, that they wouldn't look at them. Of course, immediately. I mean, it's not like every day the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the DOJ, the DOD, get a legitimate commercial airline hijacking threat. That's not every day. Sorry. Especially when you're connected to foreigners that, when you look at the money, are connected to not only Saudi nationals, but the Pakistani ISI. Of course you look at that. And then you have Walid al-Shehri, again, having the CIA called on him individually. No one seems to wrap that in. Put that in with this story. They need to. Because when you're at the point where you're not calling local police and you're calling the Central Intelligence Agency about your neighbors, shizzle must be a popping off. All pre-9/11. Then you look at a bunch of these guys. For instance, this story takes place like in LA County. Okay? I'm over on the left coast. Look at the Florida flight schools. Look at the military connections in this country, in Florida, in California, Monterey in particular, at Maxwell Air Force Base. It's all there. It's all there. And yesterday, it's funny. I was watching H2, History 2. H2 is usually better than the History Channel, which is, just complete and total trash. Not as good as AHC, which I like. And everything has to be taken with a grain of salt and a lens, and especially this story will tell you that. But first they had, I think it was America's Secret Book or Codes and Conspiracies. And it's funny for me to watch martial law plans from the Obama era, so the pre-Trump era, all this stuff. I think that show was shot in like 2012, 2013. It's over a decade old. But I'll see somebody like Bill Kristol, Project for a New American Century, total neocon, kind of a mentor to Tucker Carlson back in the day, before the Tuckins figured it out and started calling out Kristol on his show as a warmonger, by the way. It's incredible. I see that person, okay, in the same episode with someone like Michael Rivero, who Rivero's in my film Fabled Enemies, which we'll talk about because Fabled Enemies has that CIA clip takes you on the journey of these hijackers and the connections they had to intelligence, able danger, all that stuff. But Rivero in particular in that film comments on the Israeli connection. Not only the dancing Israelis or the possible explosives and vans Israelis, not that, but also Amdocs and Converse, telecommunication companies, and this network that was being quietly rounded up pre-9/11, and that post-9/11, they arrested and detained a bunch of them as well. Colin Powell acknowledged it. It's all in the film. Ari Fleischer acknowledged it. I'd tell you to go talk to the Defense Department. You know, that's not. I can't really comment on that. Interesting. All these things have been around for a very, very long time. Very long time. And so finally, Glenn Beck is talking about it. We're going to show that clip, but this is what I'd love the Bermas Brigade to do. If you are on Twitter, okay? Again, we're trying to use things as a tool here. Everything's a tool. I tagged Alex Stein because it was his retweet that got me this story that we're about to play. Finally, Beck talks about 9/11. At Alex Stein, should have him give Fabled Enemies from 2008 a look. If you guys could retweet the hell out of this, heart it, retweet it, okay? Let people know that you want Glenn Beck to at least look at this film. Look at this film, Glenn. It's 15 years old now, Glenn. And now we're going to play his clip now. But now you're finally asking some real questions about 9/11 and the media, which good. It's long overdue. But let's just go to the clip, everybody. Let's hear what Glenn has to say.
Let me show you this. This is a document from the sworn declaration of a 9/11 investigator with the Office of Military Commissions, part of the Department of Defense's Military Commissions Defense Organization. This document is dated July 20th, 2021. Now, it first appeared on a former Washington Post journalist Substack, Jeff Stein's Spy Talk. Now,
isn't that funny? Like we're just talking about the Washington Post. They're sitting there on World Press Freedom Day, loving Blinken, not talking to Assange. The legitimate journalists have to leave. They're like, what happened? And they go to Substack. And look, I'm glad Substack exists. And any outlet, remember when you used to be able to dig things, like you'd actually be able to promote it, the people could promote? They've taken away every legitimate way for the people to do that by putting algorithmic boundaries on what's acceptable to talk about.
Before I go any further, have you heard anything new at all regarding the 9/11 investigation in the last 10 years? Anything? Have you heard anything about the newly discovered sworn declaration anywhere in the mainstream media? I saw it once. Maybe there's nothing to it. Well, I mean, nothing is probably a little too harsh. Just the allegation from multiple FBI agents that the CIA was running an illegal domestic spy agency inside the United States.
And that's the other thing. We have to acknowledge that even with the Snowden documents, another person, I mean, again, you can't really pardon these people because Snowden in particular hasn't even been charged with a crime, let alone convicted. And Assange certainly hasn't been convicted of anything in this country at all and should not be deported to this country. But they're going to wait it out, man. They'll just let him rot in Belmarsh. Honestly, they're hoping that he ends up dying or taking his own life out of the madness that they've put him through.
The declaration says that the Saudis were being used as intermediaries to recruit al-Qaeda operatives for the CIA. Quote, al-Bawami was an intelligence, it could be Salami, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, he was an intelligence officer in the employ of the Saudi government. He was, quote, directed to attempt to recruit two of the 9/11 hijackers at the Saudi consulate in Los Angeles.
And remember, it's the consulate in Saudi Arabia that's giving these guys passports. That's a front for the Central Intelligence Agency and absolutely working with Saudi Arabian intelligence. See how that works? See how that works?
This declaration alleges the CIA knew the hijackers were inside the United States, and they wanted to work with them, to recruit them through an illegal domestic espionage operation, and hid everything from the FBI.
And look, I'm not saying that that's not true on the surface, but the idea that there weren't elements of the FBI that were well aware of this program too, I think that's Johnny nonsense with all the evidence given.
This information just came out. Just came out. Does anybody find that interesting? Does anybody find it interesting that it's not everywhere in the mainstream media? I mean, the CIA was running illegal operations that accidentally led to the worst tragedy on American soil. I mean, that seems kind of newsworthy. Where's the curiosity from the press? Is it a problem of sourcing? Well, let's see. This account comes after the interviews of 11 ex-FBI agents, 2 ex-CIA agents, a CNN investigative journalist, former Deputy of National Security Advisor Richard Clarke, and former Senator Bob Graham from Florida, a Democrat.
So he's also going to talk about how he co-chaired the initial congressional investigation. All this stuff is covered in more. And Bob Graham, by the way, is in my film Fabled Enemies that we're going to try to get Glenn Beck to watch, admitting that he knew the Pakistani ISI chief was working with the Taliban. That wasn't a secret. Joe Biden admitting that he met with that guy, amongst many others like George Tenet, Condoleezza Rice, who would deny that, and then, of course, be proven a liar. No one talks about that. Right? Meanwhile, you got Philip Zelikow, the main cover-up king, with what is it? The Keene Hamilton Commission. Lee Hamilton, JFK guy. Lee Hamilton, huh? Little Warren Report guy. Yeah. And Zelikow, after him and Condi, they wrote a book together. He's the head of the 9/11 Commission, writing the book, and guess what? He's part of the new War on COVID report. I mean, talk about obfuscation, limited hangout, whitewash, garbage, and trash, man. And Richard Clarke, as we've discussed here before, and we played the video a couple weeks back when we were talking about this story, openly was talking about this CIA connection all the way back in 2011. All the way back in 2011. It's not new, everybody.
He was the co-chair of Congress's joint inquiry into 9/11. I don't know. It's an amazing claim. It seems to have a lot of sources, but the media doesn't care.
Nope, they sure don't, Glenn, and it's not a shock. And remember, you didn't help things. You didn't help things when that first came out at all. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So, we're coming up on another commercial break. Before we get there, I want to talk about this story quick because it's something we highlighted before the mainstream media allowed it to be mentioned, perhaps because Jamie Foxx is said to have tweeted something out. I'm not sure if it's in this story, but he's like, thanks for all, here it is right here. From the Foxx family, we want to share that my father, Jamie Foxx, experienced, this is from the very beginning. There also may be a picture of him in a hospital bed. I'm not sure if that's legit. But basically, they're still not saying what the medical emergency was. But if you look it up, there's some people that are talking a brain aneurysm, but the popular one is he suffered a stroke on set and had to be revived. I'm not saying that. I'm just going to type it in. Let's just type it in. Where are you, Jamie? Let's see. So, Jamie Foxx stroke. Okay? They say Jamie suffers from high blood pressure, which doctors say can cause clots in the brain leading to stroke. So that's probably midday.com and entertainment news right there. I think they're easing you into it. That's the first time I've seen that there at all. And now, you're seeing it with this. This is a Nigerian site, but it was only the hip hop community that was talking about that at all. Maybe Ebony is now talking about it. Let's see, Revive. Let's see if Ebony dare uses the term stroke a week ago. I doubt it, but it maybe they did. That would be about as mainstream as it got for this. Yep, said the insider. So there it is. Ebony was probably the biggest one to actually say that a week ago, whereas it's not being discussed. But what we're going to discuss here is a word from our sponsor.
Folks, we have a huge problem on our hands. A banking crisis is spiraling, and it's all thanks to the current administration's reckless spending, sky-high inflation, and massive interest rate hikes. Now, these banks are suffering, and guess what? They can legally seize your savings without notice to bail themselves out. That's right. Thanks to a sneaky law passed back in 2008, it's now legal for banks to take your hard-earned money, including your retirement savings, to save themselves. Now, this could leave your retirement accounts decimated, and you paying the price for their disastrous policies. Take action now before it's too late. Now, this guide will show you how to defend your money and keep your retirement savings safe from the banking crisis and the current administration's financial fiasco. This simple and 100% legal strategy may help you protect your retirement against higher taxes, soaring inflation, and a volatile economy. So don't let your golden years be ruined by someone else's mistakes. To secure your free wealth protection guide and safeguard what's rightfully yours, don't wait. The time to act is now.
RVM, goldandsilver.com. But what we want you to do is to sign up for RVM Premium. redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Please consider $10 a month. It's only $1 to start, okay? You get the first week for the $1, then it's $10 a month, or $100 for the year. Lock it in. It supports the broadcast. We're trying to bring as many people over as possible. Again, 2 interviews coming up this week. We're going to be leaving YouTube in just under 15 minutes, but the second hour live and free over at redvoicemedia.com, or either of our Rumbles, or if you're on Rokfin, you can also watch the second hour there. We're going to be talking about the 2 Democratic social media young stars going on Tim Dillon. And boy, Tim. I like Tim. I've been on one podcast with him. I've talked to him a little bit behind the scenes. I like comedy in general. I think he's a funny guy. But I like the fact that he got these kids on the show, and they're kids. When I say kid too, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to young people, because I know I hated that. But I'll sit there and I'll watch MMA or the UFC, and I'll watch like somebody who's in their mid-20s, and go, "Oh, this kid is tough." That's kind of what I mean by it. That's all. All right. We got plenty of other clips other than that I wanted to play. In particular, this one, RFK breaking down NATO and Russia, especially after the media. It's unbelievable. Again, it's not something we focused on, but Russia came back with more ludicrous Johnny nonsense yesterday, where there were these weird drone attacks of explosives over at the Kremlin. Now, maybe we should do that live. Let's see if we can bring this up. Because when I watch it, I'm like, is this a real threat? Where did this come from? They're saying Russia may have done it to itself to false flag it. Even some in the mainstream media seem to be reluctant to go with that. So here it is here. You just type in Kremlin, and you can find it. Let's go with this one. Like, what is that? Don't get me wrong. If you see the size of that, let's take a look at it right there. And yeah, about the size of a door or a window. But if you're telling me that there couldn't be something of more sophistication and even the vulnerability The whole thing is just highly suspect, but Russia doing it to themselves, I don't know. Actually, my boy Stuart J. Hooper, I didn't pull this clip, but I did retweet it, had a little something to say about it. So let's hear it from him. He's one of my favorite guests to have on the show.
It doesn't matter really where this came from. It's an excuse for escalation on either side. If it comes from the Ukrainians, well, that's an escalation in and of itself. If it comes from the Russians attacking themselves, it's an excuse to escalate this conflict further. This all comes back to the central point I have made again and again and again on this channel since, again, the start of this conflict. This war needs to end. This war is benefiting absolutely nobody except the military-industrial complex in the Western world and some key political elites amongst the nations that are involved in this conflict.
100%. 100%. My boy lays it down very well. And here is RFK talking about the NATO and Russia situation that everybody seems to forget.
We should have listened maybe to Putin over many years. You know, we made a commitment to Russia, to Gorbachev, that we would not move NATO 1 inch to the east. So, you know, then we went in and we lied. We went into 13 NATO countries. We put missile systems in with nuclear capacity. We did joint exercises with the Ukraine and these others for NATO. You know, what is the purpose of NATO other than to oppose Russia? And if you're addressing Russia hostilely from the beginning, of course their reaction is going to be a hostile reaction back. And if you're slowly moving in, that all of these states who we said would never become part of NATO, were suddenly become part of NATO, you know, and then, you know, and we know what happened in the Ukraine. The U.S. Supported essentially a coup d'etat in 2014 against the democratically elected government of Ukraine. And we put in place, and we now have, you know, the telephone call transcripts. Victoria Nuland, one of the neocons in the White House then, handpicking the new cabinet that was hostile to the Soviet Union. And so, you know, if you look at that and you put yourself in Russia's position and you say, okay, the United States, our biggest enemy, that's treating us as an enemy, has now taken over the government of a nation and made them hostile to us, and then start, you know, passing laws that are prejudicial to this giant Russian population. If Mexico did that and then started killing, they killed 14,000 Russians in Donbass, the Ukrainian government. If Mexico did that to expatriate Americans, we'd invade in a second. So, you know, I think we have to put ourselves in the shoes of our opponents. And it doesn't mean saying that Vladimir Putin is not a gangster. He is. That he's not a thug. He is. That he's not a bully. He is. But going to war is not in his interest either. And he repeatedly told us, these are red lines you're crossing.
And they crossed them again and again, and continue to cross them. Again, the idea that the United States is not running the operation on the ground, the idea that the Starlink / Blackjack system that is being utilized for modern warfare there isn't ours, it's ludicrous. It's insane. It's Johnny nonsense is what it is. Okay? Can we get 150 thumbs up in the shares? And remember to rumble on over in about 6 minutes. I want to play this clip to be fair. Because, look, if I'm going to be pro RFK, so many people are saying, well, he wants climate change people to be arrested. And I've discussed this before, saying, look, it was 9 years ago. The video is also taken out of context. He doesn't say that. We're going to play it so you can understand that. He's talking about specifically the Koch brothers. And you notice they don't even have the actual question they ask him. All right, he just starts talking about global warming and the science being undeniable. And I hope that he's changed his mind on that. I really do. I really, really do. He's also talking about laws against politicians that lie. But nowhere in this clip does he call for people who deny climate change to go to jail. I want to make that clear too. And plus, I really hope now that he's seen post-COVID-19 84 nightmare what the World Health Organization, the UN, the Davos crowd, the driving forces publicly of this agenda are capable of, that he's reconsidered. He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. So let's play the clip. This is the clip everybody's telling me is why I shouldn't get behind RFK Jr.
I think they should be in jail. I think they should be enjoying 3 hots and a cot at The Hague with all the other war criminals who are there.
What about politicians, people who deny?
So now let me stop you. So I want to just tell you how this is framed. In every post I've seen this on, they make it sound like he was asked the question, people that deny climate change. That's not what he was asked at all. He was specifically asked about the Koch brothers. So I'm going to bring it back and let him say this.
I think they should be in jail. I think they should be enjoying 3 hots and a cot at The Hague with all the other war criminals who are there.
What about politicians, people who deny, who express skepticism?
I think they're selling out the public trust. And, I think those guys who are doing the Koch brothers bidding and who are against all the evidence of the rational mind are saying that global warming doesn't exist, that they are contemptible human beings, and that, I wish that there were a law you could punish them under. I don't think there's a law that you can punish those politicians under, but I think the Koch brothers should be prosecuted for reckless endangerment. Absolutely. That's a criminal offense, and they ought to be serving time for it.
So, again, the way everybody framed it is he wants people that deny climate change or global warming to go to jail. Think about what he just said. He specifically talks about the Koch brothers being prosecuted not because they're denying climate change or global warming, but because they have to be accountable for what they've done to the environment. Let's bring it back. I'm going to say it again. So look, are there parts of this I completely disagree with RFK? You bet. You better bet your butt. But I'm not going to stump for the Koch brothers.
Punish them under. I don't think there's a law that you can punish those politicians under, but I think the Koch brothers should be prosecuted for reckless endangerment. Absolutely. That's a criminal offense, and they ought to be serving time for it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So there it is. There's the big bad clip that makes me not be the guy for him. They're telling me he's bad. Meanwhile, he's putting stuff like this out. Cryptocurrencies led by Bitcoin, along with other crypto technologies, are a major innovation engine. It is a mistake for the U.S. government to hobble the industry and drive innovation elsewhere. Biden's proposed 30% tax on cryptocurrency mining is a bad idea. It's crazy, by the way. It's totally insane. Yeah, a 30%. Like, again, where is the baseline on capitalism? And look, they're trying to use it. They're trying to say this because of energy. It's all bullshit. You should use less. Get out of here with that. Yes, energy use is a concern, though somewhat overstated. You bet it is. But Bitcoin mining uses about the same as video games, and no one is calling for a ban on those. The environmental argument is a selective pretext to suppress anything that threatens the elite power structures. Bitcoin, for example. Some advocates tight control of cryptocurrencies to prevent their use by criminals, but it isn't just criminals who want privacy. So do dissidents and ordinary citizens. We're going to read the rest of it in a second after we have a word from our sponsor.
We love the internet, but the internet is tracking everything you do. Take control of your online privacy with IPVanish. People with malicious intent are everywhere, watching you. Criminals can hack your Wi-Fi, while broadband providers and advertisers monitor your data. With IPVanish on your device, your internet activity is encrypted. No one can see what you're doing. Your location, your connection, completely hidden. Protect your internet privacy today with IPVanish.
RVM VPN.com. I actually do use IPVanish. That's not a joke. You know what? I'll do it live. It's actually even in my regular bar. But here it is. That's what it looks like when you actually use the IPVanish. And I'm a big fan of it. Okay, YouTube, here's the deal. We're leaving. We're going. Arrivederci. Sayonara. See you later. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. I love you. But come on over to Rumble and Rokfin for the uncensored second hour. And remember, redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. That's going to get you two exclusive interviews this weekend only at Red Voice.